got a slang. I'm very active across social media, especially X, formerly Twitter,
Yeah.
and I've got this hashtag I use, scholarship sweet die.
Yeah.
And if you mention that on X, most people will attribute that to me because career boss.
Okay, this is Career Boss Podcast. My name is Casey, and joining me on the pod today, all the way from Nigeria, we have Freda here in the studio. Hi, Freda.
Hi, hello, Casey.
Yes, and of course, we have a very illustrious guest in our midst. And of course, I and Freda were putting our heads together to see how we can pick his brain. And give us what we need to know as regards scholarship. As for me, I don't know a better person alive that can guide me through scholarship aside this our guest that is going to be coming live on the podcast. However, before we bring him on, I want to use the opportunity to introduce to us what we call a new project for Career Boss we call Pocket Fund. Okay, so the Pocket Fund project is a project for students. Career Boss will be giving out pocket funding for students who are in their need for educational costs. For instance, they need money for handout, they need things like that. So basically what we're trying to do with the Pocket Fund is to ensure that so many students in the university do not get dropped out along the way for financial reasons. Aside the Pocket Fund, we're also going to be floating their account details online, creating it for them so that people, viewers and partners can even go ahead to sponsor or donate. It's a free will donation to their personal bank account. We need to state it clearly. None of this money comes to the Career Boss podcast. We are only trying to help and encourage students financially to ensure that they meet up with their educational tasks and whatever it is they have to do in school and come out and build successful career. Because if you think about it, some of us who went to school, we're just privileged actually. We are privileged and we had parents who were able to fund us through school. But as you know, all fingers are not equal. So some people, parents may not be as buoyant, some probably have lost their parents. So there's a very big void in that area, and that's where Career Boss is trying to come in with the Pocket Fund project. So we advise all students to apply, and basically, so if you want to apply for the Pocket Fund on Career Boss, what you're just going to do is just write a basic application, submit it to the careerboss@gmail.com, and we need evidence that you're a student. So basically what we mean by evidence, you're going to be with your written application, very short. With your written application, please attach your ID card, your school ID card, your school admission letter, and your most recent school fees receipt. That way we can validate that you are a bona fide student and you are qualified to receive our Pocket Fund of 20,000. And of course, like I said, we also help you create an online account and receive funding from well-meaning individuals all over the world, all over the globe. All right, so that's for the Pocket Fund. Now we're coming back to our guest. I will not waste too much time. Like I said, he's an illustrious son. but we'll bring him on sharply, very quick. No other person than Dr. Aaron Philip Akpo. Alright, so I wish I had this rolling drum. Aaron!
Casey,
Greetings,
you're making me shy. You're making me
No,
shy.
you cannot be shy. Doctors are not shy.
in my job, in my side job as an MC, I'm the one who is used to hyping people. I'm not used to getting hyped.
Okay, you're not on the receiving end, but today you're on the receiving end of the hype. My brother, you deserve it. You deserve it. And congratulations on your
congratulations
degree.
Thank you, Freda. Thank you, Casey.
So
nice to be here. Thank you.
That's basically why we brought you on ground. So Aaron, I know there are a lot of things about you that would interest us to know or to pick, but today we'll just limit it to scholarship, and hopefully you'll come back here on the podcast and we'll be able to get other things as regards your career and the rest of them. Okay, so I do not know the length and breadth of how your scholarship has been, but then I want you to first of all just run us through your educational background and how scholarship has played a very key role to get you to where you are right now as a doctor.
Okay, thank you, Casey. Thanks, Freda. I'm trying as much as possible, because if you introduce me as a doctor, I'm trying to behave like one, because normally, wouldn't do this. So let me talk as if I have sense, as if I'm a reasonable person, so that your audience will take me serious. But yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, it's a pleasure. We've known ourselves, Casey, Fred. I mean, we're family, literally. So that's who we are. So you guys know my story. So my first degree is microbiology. Then I have a master's degree in public health promotion, and then recently my PhD in public health. But my journey would start, I think my scholarship journey started sometime in 2011. Yes, sometime in 2011. That would be around the time I kind of first started enjoying the benefits of scholarship. So we're in Nasarawa State University, Kefi, together with my cousin Freda, who were there. And so it was about the time where my dad was he was a bit sick at the time. And I remember I was meant to go to, so in my 200 level, I went to, there was this, we usually used to go and browse. We didn't have laptops then. So we just go to of course, cyber cafe there were big things then. So we usually go to the cyber cafe to browse for just anything, assignments, scholarship,
yes,
everything. And then I don't think I was even particular about browsing, about looking up for scholarships, but somewhere we went to, for people who are in Kefi and will be familiar with this, Nasarawa State University students, it was in Angwan Lambu then, as we call it, a part of, it was it Manufa Cafe?
I know.
Manufa. I can't remember the name. It's Manufa, right? Yeah, that's the name. So, yeah, so it was in Manufa. I went to browse with a couple of friends, and then I just stumbled on a scholarship by Total, the oil company. And it looked like it wasn't real. I just looked at it, read about it a bit, and I just closed it, and I went back, told my friends, there's this scholarship, maybe we can try. And, we tried. We went to Abuja. We had to take aptitude tests in Abuja at the time. That would have been my first experience even going into Abuja. I never went to Abuja. I didn't even know how Abuja was, but that was like my first experience of going to Abuja. Abuja was looking so beautiful, like I was going to, it was a big city. And I went to write the exams. And after the exams, they even gave us money. We were paid, they gave us like 2,000 naira then to go back home. And I was like, wow, these guys have money. And unfortunately, we didn't get the scholarship. Then the next year, I mobilized my friends and I said, guys, so we had 2 of our friends got the scholarship that year, and the scholarship was worth 150,000 naira. Every session, they give you that. Once you are able to meet a CGPA of like 2.9 or 2.5, not even up to 3 points, you automatically get the scholarship until you graduate. So we didn't get the scholarship that year. The following year, I mobilized a few friends and said, we've got to try this scholarship again. And so I got a few friends. I said, let's apply this. Those of us who went last year, we didn't get. So we got a few more friends, and then we applied. And then just the time when we went on holiday and the time we were meant to write the exams was now during the holiday period. And I remember vividly, my dad wasn't feeling too well at the time. And I remember I had to struggle with my dad to give me, my late dad now, God bless his soul. I had to, it was kind of like a fight. I was telling my dad, I remember my elder brother, Lomfrey, I was now telling him how was I going to pass the news across to my dad that I was going to travel to Abuja during the holiday. What does that even mean? Like, by yourself? So it took a bit of encouragement. I went to my dad and I said, I wrote these exams. I want to go to Abuja I applied for this scholarship. I want to go to Abuja. My dad was like, what scholarship? What do you mean by scholarship? So you mean you want to go to Abuja? And I said, yes, Dad. And he gave me maybe like 2,000 naira. And then, I prepared and I left off, went to Abuja. So what we did was we chartered a bus with those of us who were ready, like 18-seater bus. We went to Kefi, chartered the bus that took us to the exam venue. We wrote the exam. For some reason, almost everybody who wrote that exam, and they also gave us 2,000 naira total. They paid us 2,000 naira to go back home, like a transport allowance sort of. For some reason, almost all of us who went in that bus, that they got that scholarship. It might just be, I don't want to think I'm so brilliant to have gotten it, because there are people who obviously academically were not, arguably, maybe, if I'm going to use, I don't want to use that, maybe I don't want to use the word intelligent, but because that can be subjective, but not as intelligent as I might claim to be, but they still got the scholarship. In fact, there was a guy who almost is like the guy at the back of the class, but but he got the scholarship with us, so that was good. We went to Abuja, got our scholarship letter, and I remember when I was going to collect the scholarship letter, I was telling myself that I would love to get another scholarship to study abroad, and for some divine reason, I'd like to think it's divine. Just shortly after I went back home, when we were waiting for the scholarships to be awarded, my dad died. And so I remember we went back to school. We returned to school after the burial and all of that. And those of us who are familiar in National State University, Kefi, we're at the Convocation Square doing some photocopies of some handouts. And then a friend called me and said, Aaron, have you looked at the internet? Total has released the list. And I'm like, really? Wow. And then I quickly just went online, looked at it, and lo and behold, my name was there. It felt so surreal. It was like a dream. I just literally we just finished burying my dad. Obviously, I'm from a polygamous home. My dad had 3 wives. At the time this was happening, my mom had died long time ago. My mom died when I was in SS2, so I was still very young. I was 15 then when my mom died. So at the time when my dad, so at this time I had officially become, an orphan, so to say. But of course I had stepmothers, I had amazing uncles and aunties that were, family was there, but my dad and mom were not there anymore. So I was fortunate, opened it, my name was there, it was good. We went to Abuja to take our scholarship letter. And I was telling myself, now that, I'm kind of like, don't get me wrong, I got all the love. I call myself a privileged orphan because I was still fine. Obviously there are things that you would expect if my dad and mom were there, I would have had, obviously, because my parents were still alive, but I couldn't have those, but I wasn't starving. I had food to eat, I had clothes to wear. So I was a privileged orphan. That's I called myself that. I named myself that many years ago. But anyways, I went to Abuja, collected a scholarship, and at that time started thinking it would be good if I get a scholarship to study abroad.
This total scholarship, Philip. So this total scholarship was to study in Nigeria. Was it for your bachelor's or for your master's?
Yeah. Yes. No, so it was for I was already studying microbiology. It was a scholarship that was given to undergraduate students while they were studying.
Okay. As cash?
Yeah, they send it to your account. So it was 150,000 naira. Then you can imagine lots of money. I was,
Back then, when
you open an account.
Back then, 150 was big, man.
You can imagine. And just to put it in perspective, like when I was coming to school then, true story, our dad will pay our school fees, obviously, then he will give us when the semester started. I mean, some people had lots of, but my dad, me and my brother, he will give us 10,000 naira. He put 10,000 in our account. That was the money we had. Then after like maybe 2 months or after a month, he'll send like another 5K. Our dad was very, very prudent with the way he gave us money, you know. Then all of a sudden, just imagine how the man died, and then Total was giving me 150,000 naira. It was like, man, I threw a party. It was like, we honestly threw a party with it, because it was the first time the money came. We had my birthday came around. That's how I got my first laptop, got my first suit. I was more of like a minister's son. It felt like $1 million. It felt like I had $1 million, because it was a lot from where I used to see 10,000 naira, and then all of a sudden 150K. That is my own, not like the one I was gonna ask my dad to send me money. All of that. So it was life changing. It was life changing. So I just had to maintain 2.9 or 2.5 CGPA to keep getting the money. And obviously the money kept coming. I received the money twice, because you get the money every session. But then that was the time I would think my scholarship journey officially kicked off. You know, in the past I had applied to, for instance, we had the federal government scholarship that I had also applied to that I didn't get. There were other scholarships like that, but this was so this was like
I like the fact that you are consistent. You don't give up.
It was not a one time.
Because some people just apply once, and if they don't get, they just get discouraged.
That's the thing, and I mean, you can't do that with scholarship. You've got to be determined, isn't it? And I've got a slang. I'm very active across social media, especially X, formerly Twitter, and I've got this hashtag I use: scholarship sweet die. You know, and if you mention that on X, most people will attribute that to me, because it's like scholarship literally changed my life. Changed my life. I started benefiting from scholarship just after the main person who was there to support my education and my life died, who was my dad. You know, my mom died many years ago, so I was an orphan. And so, but scholarship changed everything about me. So that's why it has always been like, it's now like my passion to always do this. And then shortly after that, obviously, just to fast track a bit, I started researching how was I in fact, I remember that was the year 2011, 2012. That's when I created a folder and titled it scholarships on my laptop. So I bought a laptop at the time with the money that came from Total. I got a friend of mine, went to Abuja, neighborhood center. I can't remember that area in Abuja.
Zone 3.
So went there. He said, yes, you people know the zones. I didn't know, obviously. I still don't know, because I don't know Abuja. You were the Abuja people at the time. So I went to neighborhood center. I got my very first laptop. And then when I came back home, I opened in the folder, I created a folder and I titled it scholarships. Wow. That was like this. And that folder remained on my laptop. I mean, that is the folder that I kept updating till date. You know?
Wow.
But then I just checking if Total was even offering international scholarship, and I saw that it wasn't doing a lot of that. This was 2011, I think. Yeah, 2011 I got the scholarship. I got 2012. I got it twice before I graduated, and then I just continued doing all I was doing, still looking out for scholarship with the drive on it to get a scholarship, particularly to go abroad, because I knew that for some reason I couldn't even afford to pay my fees. To be honest, I couldn't afford to. I mean, the way I had family, I could ask for money, but it was different if it's your dad and your mom. You are entitled to it if it's your father and your mother. They are meant to do that for you. Any other thing you get, even if it's your brother or your sister, they are just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. But I didn't have that support anymore. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have a mom. So I knew that to an extent, I was almost alone, in a way, in terms of trying to chart a way for myself. And I can't sing, I can't play football, I don't have any special gift. The only way I knew how to break out of any way the place I was at the time was through education. I had to go to school, and the only way to afford it was clear to me that it had to be scholarships, And fortunately, through grace, I was very fortunate. God was, I'm a religious, so I believe in God, and God was very kind to me as well. supported me. And then I didn't get the second scholarship. I remember my first scholarship was 2011. I finished my undergrad, but I had it in mind to still apply for a master's scholarship abroad. And I didn't get that scholarship until 2016. Now that is mine that I graduated. I went to youth service. I went to volunteer in Lagos for 3 months. All of those things were in between. And during that time in between, I was developing myself. I was doing stuff. I was lots of volunteering. I think most of my career is mostly built around, volunteering.
You didn't just sit and wait for scholarship. At least you were doing something in between.
Oh, definitely, yes. So I was.
And should I did the volunteering contribute to getting your next scholarship for masters?
Oh, absolutely. It played a very critical role. Yeah, so I'll give you the gist. Now, this is what happened. I came back from youth service. In fact, they were going to retain me. I served in Boko, the secondary school in Boko, Benue State. The secondary school wanted to retain me. And I told them, no, I wanted to return back to Nasarawa State because I want to further my education. The drive was just there to go on. But when I came back to Lafia, I was, our house was in Lafia, Nasarawa State then. And so I was looking out for things to do. So I would just, maybe there was an NGO that was doing a project, I would just go and join them and volunteer and do a certain thing. But I was actively looking for a job. So we printed out all my CVs. We printed out CVs and cover letters, and we're going to. So my friend at the time, his parents just bought a car. So he would fuel the car. We'll pick our CVs and be going around. We'll just be driving around Lafia. Once we see a school, we'll say, bros, see one school, see a school here, sorry, for those who are not understand pidgin, but see a school here. So we'll drop the car, we'll go into the school and then submit our CVs that we wanted jobs, right? We're doing this also, we're doing every day, just looking for a teaching job.
You were intentional about it.
Yeah. So looking for a teacher at the same time, also doing volunteering along the line. But then this is how the first volunteering break happened. So finally, one school decided to recruit me and give me a teaching job. So this was the day I went to take the job. We're going to the school. I remember our house was in Bukan City. My dad's house, my dad built a house in Bukan City where we had most of my family. But my mom, remember, I said I'm from polygamous home. So my mom, being one of the wives, she built her own different house. That's not strange. That's typical. So my mom built a different house in a different area of Lafia where I was staying. But I usually come, hang out with my family, all of that stuff. So anyways, I went to pick up this job. The job was meant to pay me, I think 15,000 Naira at the time. That was what was going to be my monthly pay. Now I had a friend, my very good friend, Barnabas, who, were almost like brothers, Barnabas Usman. He recently got a job with an NGO in Abuja, a voluntary service overseas. And so the way they do the volunteering is, because it's an international organization, they get 30 volunteers from the UK, 30 volunteers from Nigeria. They put them together and take them to a certain state. And then they pair them up. So you have two volunteers in each house. They put us in what we call host homes. We live in that houses and we do projects for 3 months within that community. That community for me was in Lagos. Okay. Now they went to Lagos, and then some volunteers that were shortlisted for the project did not turn up. Now I was speaking to the principal at the time, yes, and I was, they gave me my register for the class I'll be teaching, everything, all the books. I was now just discussing, and then my friend called me. He called me, and I excused myself, went outside, and I picked up. He said, "Aaron, how far?" I said, "Fine. Can you come to Lagos today?" I said, "What do you mean today?" He said, "We're short of volunteers. This is what happened." And I'm like, I just want to take a job now. And then my brother, Aklo, my elder brother, Aklo, was getting married that week. I mean, the next day, literally. Getting married the next day. And so I told him, "Man, I don't know how this is going to sound, but let me think about it. I'll text you." The moment I dropped the call, something told me that I had to go to Lagos. I went back in there, told the principal that, honestly, I didn't even drop the job because I didn't want it to look rude. I said, "Let me go home. Something came up. I have to go think about it." While I was on the bike going home, I was making calls of how to borrow money for transport to go to Lagos, because of course I didn't have money, right? So I called my stepmother now, who is also late, God bless her, so our close mom. And I said, please, mom, I need money. I need to go. She said, what do you mean go to Lagos? It was so abrupt. Like, are you okay? I say, yes, I just want to go. And she said, did you get a job? I said, it's not a job. I'm going to volunteer. I say, yes. Anyways, she gave me, I think, 10,000 or 15,000. I can't remember. Called one of my cousin again, gave me like 3,000. And I took the night. There were two other girls that were called up by my friend. Two other girls who went to Akwanga, took the night bus, and we went to Lagos. I was in Lagos for 3 months. And that was the thing. I remember at this time I was already with folks in the UK, because there were UK folks that came and were volunteering together, so we're friends. And I was telling them all this my dream. I said, really, I'm hoping that, sometime in the future I might get this scholarship and I'll be in the UK to do my master's. That's like my tall dream. This was 2013, 2014. But anyway, we get stipends as volunteers, right? So they give us like 3,000 or so at the end of, I think, every 2 weeks or every week. I can't remember, for our upkeep and all that. We're not paying rent because we're living in host homes. They were feeding us and all of that. But anyway, we stayed there. And we're doing like projects, real projects, as if we're being paid. We're going out doing youth projects. And that experience of 3 months was very, very key when eventually I was applying for my scholarship I eventually got a scholarship in 2016, right? But the top of my CV was, in fact, most of the thing I screamed about my scholarship was that volunteering. I finished volunteering, came back to Lafayette. Then after 3 months, fortunately, I got a job with an NGO in Lafayette, working as a care and support HIV/AIDS officer. And then I was still applying for my scholarship. And while I was still working there, I traveled to Lorraine, I traveled to Port Harcourt, applying for, in fact, I went by night buses, because I had to come back to work the next day or like 2 days later. To apply. I was applying for a master's in public health. For some reason, I did not know I was going to pay those school fees, but I just had the drive that if I got the admission, this was not scholarship then, I'll still run around uncles, aunties, siblings to help me pay. Fortunately, I didn't get through. Borrowed money again, wrote IELTS at the time. I went to my uncle. In fact, I took an IOU, in the office where they give you your money in advance. I took an IOU from the office. They gave me part of my salary. Then I went to my uncle and I said I need more money. He borrowed me I call it borrow, and I told him I'm just borrowing, but obviously I didn't get to pay him back. He gave me like maybe 50 or 30 or 40K. Anyway, I put up together 60,000, went to Abuja again, wrote my IELTS test. I remember I stayed in a house. Funny story, I stayed in a house with my friend, and my mother's friend, my friend's mother told me that, you're going to write this exam. I can't remember what it was again. I don't know Abuja so well. Anyways, she said, how are you going to get there? I said, no, I'm going to take a bus here. They are longs. You take a car, you drop here. She said, no, Aaron, take this 1,000. Just take a car straight there. True story, I collected the money. I still took the along because I needed the change, to keep money. So it's so funny. But anyway, you think back now, it's very interesting. But anyway, I wrote IELTS, and then I still applying for lots of scholarships. And then fortunately, 2016, I got 2 scholarships. One funded by the WHO, World Health Organization, to do a Masters of Public Health in Zambia, and then one funded by the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship for a Masters in the UK, all public health. They came at the same time. I had the trouble of choosing where I wanted to go. Obviously, I was in Nigeria. I didn't want to go to an African country.
They give you Zambia. No. We are being patriotic. We love our own. But I'm just trying to be sure that when you weighing it, was it a choice, whatever, for you at the point?
No, I think, obviously, because you had 2 options, you will think of, okay, what does this offer? And honestly, the Zambia offer was very juicy. The master's was going to be 2 years. Every year I had a return flight back to Nigeria to come see family. I had, laptops, I had location, I had everything. It was because it was funded by the World Health Organization, so there was a lot of money on the project. It was a project for tropical diseases. Anyways, so I in fact I emailed them to say, was it possible for me to defer it so that I come back the next day? My plan was, let me go finish that one, then come back, go to Zambia,
and come back
and get the other one. Exactly. But they said, no, that doesn't happen. But then remember at the time that I already had friends who we volunteered with in Lagos in 2013. And we were still in touch. I remembered I had already told them that, I was applying for this scholarship. I wish I get this. If I eventually get that scholarship, we'll see again in the UK,
Yeah.
And It eventually happened. I decided to go to the UK. In fact, the person who picked me from the airport were two volunteers who volunteered in Lagos. I was meant to go to Leeds, but they were in Manchester, so they picked me up from the airport in Manchester. We went to their house. They did shopping for me. They shopped groceries and all of those things. They booked my train ticket from Manchester to Leeds. We caught up for a few hours, and then they put me on the train, and I went to Leeds, where I studied at the Beckett University in Leeds there. So I did my master's, finished off. Didn't want to do a PhD at the time. I wanted to just come back home. I felt, okay, once I do a master's in public health, I'm good. But before I left, obviously, I met this amazing lady who, we started dating, and who is now my wife, obviously, the mother of my kids. So I went over to the UK, started my master's, finished off. Then just about the same time I was finishing, she got the same scholarship I was on to come to the same university in the same city. So she came, and I went back home because the Commonwealth mandates that you have to return back to Nigeria. So I went back home to Nigeria, obviously, and then, but I didn't want to do a master's, but I didn't want to do a PhD at the time. She kept pushing and fighting and all of that. So I went back home because of the fact. Now this is how the volunteering train worked. When I volunteered in Lagos, the youth program manager at the time, Kingsley Udo, really great man. We were still in touch. So when I returned from the UK, I remember at the time, obviously I had money then, because you convert pounds to naira. It was good money. So I had some decent amount that in my wildest imagination I had never seen. I remember in the UK, the first day I transferred money when I got paid my stipend, and I transferred money, and I kept sending money. I didn't used to leave money in pounds because I was going back home. So I was always sending money back home, right? The first day my Nigerian account hit 1 million, I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't sleep. I wake up in the night, I'll pick my phone, I'll open my bank app, I'll look at it, 1 million.
From
big money.
Student fund.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was so surreal. But anyway, so I went back home. I had a few, and I bought a car at the time to do Uber. So I got a driver to do some business for me. I called the driver and I said, please give me the car. I went around Abuja, I printed my CV, application for the role of volunteer. I had a master's in public health with a distinction, right? I was going around Abuja, dropping my CVs in NGOs, looking for a place to volunteer, right?
Once again.
But then, yes, again, I was looking for a place, but I didn't get it. So I went back to Lafayette to do something, because at the time I was not staying in Abuja with my friend Barnabas, who invited me to volunteer at the time. He was still with VSO then. And so I went back to Lafayette to do certain things. And then I got a call from Kingsley, who was the youth program manager then, to say, Aaron, how are you doing? Where are you? I say, I'm in Lafayette, but I'm going back to Abuja tomorrow. I just came to see family and all of that. He said, there is this NGO in Abuja. They're looking for a program officer. Do you think it's something you can do? Can you send me your CV? I said, okay, yeah, no problem. And I sent him my CV. He said, just go tomorrow. I don't know if the woman if she actually wants to give you the job, but just want to talk with you and see if you are the best fit. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I sent him my CV. And then he sent me a text saying, I've sent to her, please see her in the office, so thing by this time. So I went back to Abuja, went to see her. That day I went to see her, we started chatting. Fortunately, Dr. Yudi, she's the country director for Youth Alive Foundation and Youth Alive Foundation Africa. And that's where I worked the last time. And credit to her so much. She helped. And so she did her PhD in the UK. So we started chatting. You just came back from the UK. Why are you not looking for volunteering? I'm like, yeah, if you want to work, you can. I mean, I'm a passionate volunteer, so I don't mind volunteering in organizations before I eventually get the spot. Because of volunteering, I was fortunate to get my master's in the UK and all of that. That day, from interview, I started work. So I started the job almost immediately, right? And we're doing a project at the time, it's a governance project with Charlie Boy. In fact, my office was in Charlie Boy's house because it was a project that we were funding at the time. It was so good anyways. I started worked for a year, but at some point, remember I was still, my girlfriend then, now my wife, was really pushing me, let's apply for a PhD, And so I was applying on the side and all of that. But then I applied to lots of school in the UK. It didn't work. Eventually, I got a PhD scholarship in Australia through the proposal I ran. And credit goes to them. I was working with a lot of persons with disabilities then. And so it helped me to kind of develop my PhD proposal, send it around. And then fortunately, I got funded. And then, here I am with a PhD.
So Philip, so Total part funded your degree. We need to put some things in context. Right? Commonwealth funded your master's.
Fully.
Who funded your PhD in Australia? Because you need to also highlight who funded that PhD.
So the PhD was funded by my university, my former university now, Queensland University of Technology, where I did my PhD. So that funding came from the university. That was on a scholarship called Queensland University of Technology Postgraduate Research Award. So it was funded by the university. Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of like my short story. I don't want to keep us all day because I can talk all day.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this. It might look like a long story, but if people are patient enough to listen to this story, I think it's supposed to inspire us to know that nothing good comes easy, and there are certain steps that you need to take in order to get to the next step. Like this volunteering, for example, I realized that I also wanted to, look for scholarship at some point. I think I spoke to you, and you also advised me that if I could volunteer, it would bridge the gap for me. But at that time, I don't know what stopped me. I think I was already working. That time you got you started your first volunteering. I don't know if you were working already, but it's easier if you're not working than.
Oh no, I wasn't working. No, I wasn't working. Yes,
so
I wasn't
when
working.
you're already working, it's not actually easy to volunteer. Go for 3 months somewhere and just go for. Except taking study
it's not even logical. You can't.
Yeah, so that was what discouraged me from, because I was already working. So, but all the same, I want to encourage those out there who think, okay, why am I not getting this scholarship? Why am I not getting? There are certain things some people don't want to sacrifice. It's sacrifice. It wasn't easy for you. It's not like you loved. If you had job that would offer you maybe 100K that time, I don't think you would have been serious looking for this.
Oh no!
I'm not saying you wouldn't have.
No,
but you would not
definitely not.
Yeah.
Poverty,
you will not be hungry.
And hunger was my drive. Yeah.
You won't be hungry for the scholarship.
So poverty was your drive, Aaron.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
No.
Most of our rich kids. Please, I want to ask you something.
Okay.
As you went to do school, you got scholarship, right? Several times. In your experience, how many rich men's kids did you see, there on scholarship? Let's be truthful.
Oh no, very little. I mean, rich kids, not like they don't need it, but why are you looking for it?
Why when you already have? So most of us that don't have, the backing, from parents or uncles and the rest, we're supposed to look for, not to find shortcuts, because there is no shortcut in life, right? You can't get shortcuts. Now you're always telling your story over and over. Most of these things you're saying, I've heard them several times, not because we're family, but because you are not tired of saying this story every time. It's that you went through this thing, you suffered it, you knew how you got it. So it's not an easy thing. You didn't just apply once and got. It won't even be a story if it was like that. So I like the fact that there's a story behind it, and let people be patient enough to listen to you, so that they'll pick the important ones that will help them. Now, I want us to,
Before you go forward, further, I want to look at the twist here.
Okay.
Dr. Aaron. Sorry.
Doctor.
I need to put that doctor there because
very important.
That 5 years. Easy, make them run now. If you easy, make them run now.
Nice you.
Okay, so Dr. Aaron, you know that I still finish the course of this. I want to call you Aaron because please, all protocols do you observe. Doctor. Doctor, so if your parents hadn't passed, would you have been keen on getting scholarships? because it's easier for people to say, I don't have parents, nobody to sponsor me, and they drop out of school.
Oh yeah.
But you converted that energy that was supposed to be a negative energy and recycled it into a push that pushed you towards the scholarship end of the thing. So I'm asking now, if your parents were alive during this whole scenario, would you have still been eager for the scholarship?
Oh no, with all certainty, I wouldn't have. In fact, my mom was doing pretty well on her own. She had a very good career. At the time she died, she had just been promoted to a director in Internal Revenue Board then in Nasarawa State. So my mom would have risen to the career of like permanent secretaries and all of that if she were alive today. So she was doing very well. At the time, she already had like 2 cars. She died in 2006 or so. Yeah, 2006. That's when she died. By all standards, she was doing well. I was the only child she had with my dad. She spoiled me silly. I had everything I wanted, literally, So if my mom were alive, or should I maybe taken me to my dad even wanted me to go to some private university at the time to go do medicine. I didn't want to do medicine because I felt I didn't have the brains. But if my parents were alive, I don't think I would have had the drive.
Use the brain, you mean?
Yeah. but honestly, I don't think I would have had the drive to apply. There wouldn't have been any reason to apply for a scholarship. The only reason, remember what I said, I had fantastic stepmoms, fantastic uncles, aunties, siblings. They were good. But I was not their child. And they had no responsibility to train me. Anything they did was out of their goodwill, even if it was my brother or my sister. These were goodwill. The only person I could go to and say, I need money for they don't give me, I will frown and maybe, quarrel and, throw tantrums. Was my dad and they were no longer there. So that was the drive. If they were there, there would have not been any reason to apply. Maybe my dream would have stopped with Total, obviously, where, I had applied, gotten the scholarship. But if they were there wouldn't have been any reason. I would have been fine going to university. I would have pocket money. I would have had a car. I would be driving around town, feeling, big boy, local champion sort of vibes.
Local champion.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't even know I was local champion because by all standards I was doing well. So my drive then was because they had passed, and the only reason I didn't even graduate with the first class was because from 100 level, this very naive mentality where you didn't have you didn't have the proper orientation. We're telling us, first class graduate, it's hard for them to get jobs, with first class you won't get jobs. So I was determined not to graduate with the first class for some silly stupid reason. And so I was doing well in my class, microbiology. When we graduated, I was my friend of mine who graduated first class. We had one first class, and then the second best with the best CGPA. I think I was the one, 4.29, and then of course we had others in the 4 points. But I had a good CGPA, so I had a 2.1. So obviously and then I had a distinction in my masters.
Okay, so there are people now that would say, I cannot apply for scholarship because my GP is low. Are there scholarships that don't really mind you having a low CGPA?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes. So lots of people have gotten scholarships. Even there are people who have gotten scholarship with HNDs. So people get direct PhD scholarships. They have HND, they get direct PhD scholarships. But there's that belief that when you have HND, you will not even get
anything. You can't get a job.
So if HND can get, that means third class can also get.
Yeah. So now, when in terms of scholarships, scholarships is not all about CGPA. Remember, I talked about volunteering, right? When you are applying for scholarships, you you have to write essays. You write your SOPs. Your CV will be there. You have your application package, which they might ask you additional question of how you are best fit for the scholarship, all of that. So when you apply for a scholarship, you are literally telling them a story of your journey. Now, they first of all obviously look at your CGPA to see if you have a good CGPA. But then other things happen. What is your CV like? What is your professional experience? So you have people who have years of experience working, like, for instance, Freda, you have tons of experience working in the agri space with the project you've been working on for, donkey years now, right? You might not have the first class. Somebody might have the first class, but say for some reason you apply, because there are scholarships, especially in the scholarship, for instance, in the US space, where you can go from BSC straight to PhD, HND straight to PhD, right? Now, especially when you're applying for those PhDs and research master's degrees, they look at your experience is very critical. Because when you're doing in grad school, you're no longer that, grad school, you're still mama's boy, maybe. You still maybe under the roof of your parents, kind of. People begin to break away when they go for grad school. Somehow that might be a step, but especially for people who go abroad. Now, you need to be at a certain level of exposure, of experience, be able to manage what comes with grad school, and they look out for these things. Where have you worked? Where have you? In fact, volunteering is a very critical role, because people are interested in how much time of your time you are able to give off to produce value, either for your community or yourself or for other people. So that plays a critical role. So your CV, your professional experience, your volunteering experience, if you have publications, that comes into play. If you've done some courses, that comes into play as well. So it's not just about your degree. It's not about that. It's a whole thing that is looked up. That's why you see, I had first class friends who were applying for scholarships. They never got it. I had it too. I got scholarship.
So you had the upper hand.
Exactly. I just finished a PhD because I was putting my head into different stuff in my field. I was volunteering here, and I had lived experiences in the area I wanted to go for my master's and my PhD eventually. So all of those come into play. So anybody listening to us right now, if you've got a 2-2, you've got a third class, you've got a HND, you obviously also you can get a scholarship. You can get multiple scholarships. You just need to prepare yourself as much as you can so that you're ready.
Okay, so I'd like to ask this: what do you think? You just discussed part of it, like eligibility criteria for scholarships. But what other criteria do you think? If you have anything to add, you can add. If not, let's just leave it. But I would like you to shed more light on the eligibility criteria for scholarships. Your experience now. We that don't have experience, we can't say much. So for people that have never applied, let's say I recently forwarded you, I told you something about somebody wanting to apply. She's a graduate and she wants to apply, and she doesn't have experience in applying. So what are the other criteria?
Basic criteria
for scholarships.
So eventually, first thing you must think of, if you are thinking of international scholarships, you must have your passport. You need your international passport. If that's you need your transcript in terms of documents. That's very important. Very important. You need, of course, your degree certificate or your master's certificate if you are going for a PhD, for instance, or if you already have a master's, you want to go for a research master's, but you need your degree certificate. You are going to need, a well-written CV, an academic CV that is well-written. And obviously, I shared resources with you, and we might talk about that down the track as well, of how people can access some of these resources that, we've put out there. You need also, depending on the scholarships, some scholarships will need you to, most scholarships or most admission, you need to write statements of purpose or personal statements or motivational letters. You need that, and that's where you tell your story of that. And then some scholarships will have other questions they might ask you as well, like the Commonwealth Scholarship or the or the Chevening Scholarship, you've got specific essays that are asking you specific questions that you have to write. So different scholarships with those different parameters. But what you're new in the space, you're thinking of, I want to apply for a scholarship. What are the crucial documents I would need to put in place? Get your CV, get your international passport, get your transcript, get your degree certificate, all of that. Begin to put those things together. Those are very, very critical. Other eligibility criteria might vary based on the type of scholarship you are applying for. So, for instance, if you are applying for a master's degree, say, for instance, the Commonwealth Scholarship, which I applied for, you have specific questions that will ask you that you need to respond to. If you're applying for the Chevening Scholarship, which I applied to first and I did not get before I got the Commonwealth Scholarship, they have specific questions you are also going to respond to. Some other, the Chevening Scholarship, the Chevening, you need to go for an interview later, and if you are shortlisted. If you are applying, for instance, for and of course your CV, back to that, your CV, like we mentioned, you have to have, experience in your field. That's why I tell people, some people will say, I don't have an employed job. Since I finished school, I did not get a job. That's
exactly
fine. You do not need to actually work for you to get a scholarship. That is where volunteering fills in the gap, because you can go volunteer in your space, and that will count. That's a professional experience. The only thing is that you are not paid. You are doing it for free. Yeah, but it's the same value you are giving out there, but it's just the difference is that you are not being paid, and that is why it is more weighty, because people.
I think that's why most people don't like volunteering, because it doesn't come with salary.
Exactly, because people look at it. I mean, some organizations provide stipends. Like I went to Lagos for 3 months. We've been given stipends. It was little,
and it's okay.
But it was
the stipends are okay to cater for your needs.
Oh, it was fine for you to eat and buy a few things. That was fine. We even saved up out of the 3K. When I came back to Lafayette, I bought a few things. I saved up out of the 3,000. So I did come back.
Out of minimum wage, you still save inside minimum wage.
Exactly. Yeah. So volunteering and all of that is good. And then if you're applying for a PhD, that's different. PhDs might need you to have publications. They might need you to have certain research experience as well. So those are the different layers to it, but these are a rough idea of what are the things you need to put in place if you're thinking about applying.
Let me ask, when you say research, like most of us, before we graduated from university, we had our projects. Is that part of your research? Can you use it to get PhD?
Absolutely, that's research, because you write a project. And when you apply for certain scholarships, they will ask you for a writing sample. They want to see how you write. What you will submit, you can literally just send them your undergrad thesis or your master's. Like when I applied for my PhD, I had 3 publications then that were not as strong. They were not even related in the space where I wanted to do my PhD in. They were in microbiology. Microbiology publications.
But it somehow helped.
Yes, it helped, because in fact they asked for a writing sample. I sent them my master's thesis that I wrote in the UK. I sent them the whole thing because they want to see, have you conducted any research at all? And the research might not actually be that you did it in an academic institution. I'll give you an example. Maybe with the job you're doing, or Fred, or the job you're doing, Casey, you might be doing some evaluation work, right? And then you might need to send out questionnaires to maybe your target group. You want to get a sense of did they enjoy this project? So you might send out questionnaires. So you actually write out questions, develop the question, send it out to them. They answer, you come back, you analyze it in some way. That's research. So it doesn't have to be that, and that you have to sit, go to a lab or all that.
And wear glasses.
Exactly. So but it's just for people to be aware of how they are able to sell their story. So doing the thing is different, but of course, all of us will be aware, if you can't tell the story in a convincing way, then nobody will. It's like going for a job interview. Nobody will hire you if you can't. You can't tell yourself. Yeah.
Doc, let me ask you another very concern. It's not even, it's like a concern for me. So there are a lot of guys over here in the UK who they struggle to pay school fees.
Yeah, that's
So these scholarships, I think do they just center it on developing nations, like you need to come over, but can you be in the UK here, discover that things are rough and you can't meet up with paying your school fees, then you decide to have scholarships, apply for them? Is it possible?
Yes, it is. It's very possible. So with that kind of scholarship, mostly it will come from university administered scholarships. So you might hear something like the Vice Chancellor's Award of blah blah blah, or Dean's Prize, or Dean's Scholarship of this that, right? So if you think of scholarships like the Commonwealth Scholarship, the MasterCard Scholarship, Chevening Scholarship, the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, Australia Awards, there are so many, right? If you think of these scholarships, you apply from your home country, you get funded, they pay your flight and everything, and they bring you over to study. So those scholarships, you can't, you can still be in the UK, for instance, and have access to them, but some of them have, for instance, the Commonwealth Scholarship, I think you must, at the time you apply, you must be living in your home country for you to be able to access that scholarship, because they want to be sure that the people they are funding are the people who actually
people that need it.
Yes. So if you already have, no dramas for people who are already there, for instance. But if you're already in a developed country, if you already funded yourself, it might be that obviously you sold off property, it might be that you borrowed money, but you're already there. There is some level of privilege for you already. There are things you have that people in Nigeria, which is our country, would not have.
Yeah.
So you might be actually having trouble paying those fees, but you are not suffering as much as people who are in their home countries. So that's why some of those countries, some of those scholarships will want you to be living in your country. They will fund you from your country, pay your flight, and take you there. So for people already in those countries, most of those scholarships, they are able to get scholarships. If they are able to access certain scholarships, as scholarships that are university administered, or maybe they are administered by certain organizations, and that's those scholarships are not, I wouldn't say they are not like easily available. They are there, but that's the encouragement for people. If somebody is in that space listening, is to check the university website or speak to, what do you call them? There are, of course, grad school reps or scholarship reps in most UK universities. There are people who are in charge of those things. The admissions office in the international office, they have all that information. It's to ask what scholarships are available for students. In fact, some scholarships, some universities give what is called like hardship scholarship for students who are actually struggling to pay their hardship scholarship. They might not be able to. Sometimes scholarship might not pay off everything, but you have
partial
certain amount partial to kind of help out. So those scholarships are there depending on the country, on the university as well. So all those things, they vary, but they are there. But the best route to take is to speak to people in the admissions of the international office, or go to the university website and check what scholarships are there for students who are already onshore and already studying. They are there. Or there are organizations that, for instance, in Australia, for instance, there's a big organization called CSIRO. They fund lots of research and all of that. So there are students who already got scholarship with me, but they now have extra money. It's what they call top-up scholarship. So they will now apply. So if their research will be, so I think our scholarship at the time when we started was paying us 27K a year, 27,000 AUD. That was our annual scholarship. So we get that every fortnight. They break that and you get every fortnight as stipend, right? So, but you will not have students who, because their research aligned with a certain thematic area of CSIRO, or a certain, or maybe an organization that has to do with cancer, organization that has to do with disability, they apply for those funding and they get, you might not have people having extra top-up scholarship of like $15,000 or $20,000 on top of the money they already have.
Yeah. Nice one.
So they are there. Yeah, they are there. So those scholarships are there just for people to check, speak to the right people, and then you can access them.
Please, I want to ask: does Nigerian university do they give, or do Nigerian universities give scholarship like how we apply for? You even got in Zimbabwe. I've not heard. I don't know if there are sponsor students who cannot afford, school fees and all that, and give them stipends like
Nigerian
Yes.
government.
Yes. Of course, we've got the federal government. That's why we have the Federal Scholarship Board in Nigeria. That's their job. That's what they do.
They
They
give. Philip said that is their job. That's what they do. They go. Do they do anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but actually, those scholarships are there. Remember when I was telling you guys?
Are they giving them low key? Because why don't we hear about them?
They are there. So, I mean, you might argue that maybe, of course, as you would imagine, some people have argued that, of course, the politics and all of those things, those factors also play out, right?
Yeah.
But the scholarship is there. Remember, I told you that before I had gotten the total scholarship in my 300 level, I had already applied for the federal government scholarship.
Okay.
This was in my 200 level in National University Cafe. We feel there was a long form you fill out, you write your detailed form, and then you send it over to the Federal Scholarship Board. Some people got it. And I think at the time, the Federal Scholarship Board, they were paying, I think, about 100,000 or 150,000 too.
But they won't
To
pay
people
your
every
school fees, just they'll give you the money.
Yeah. You get an amount, yes. They give you the money like that. But there are also scholarships within. The Federal Scholarship Board, for instance, they fund people, in country and off country, outside the country as well, offshore, for scholarships and all that. You've got, TED Fund, of course. That one is for mostly lecturers, academics who are working in universities. But there are also scholarships so universities who are some research universities or departments that are heavy on research. And when I say research, it's not mostly lab-based, right? There are students who I know who are being funded by, so universities or departments who write out, or academics who write for grants. They get that grant, and then they recruit master students, they recruit PhD students, like that. I know I had a friend when we were applying for. Yes, my friend, when we were applying, I had a friend that when we were applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship or the federal government scholarship, one of them, his own master's was funded in Nigeria by the federal scholarship, by the federal government scholarship. He finished his master's. He was even in the geology, oil and gas space. I think he now works in NMPC or somewhere. But he actually got, so those funding, actually, they might not be as much as they are, obviously, as it is in schools abroad. For instance, in my university, like Nassau State University, at the time when we were studying, there wasn't anything like that. I mean, for people within my department, because the scholarship that was there then was TED Fund. It was mostly academics who are already working. They now get TED Fund, they go abroad and study, or they go, or even study within the same university. But for those other kind of scholarships, it wasn't there at the time when we were studying. That's why we're looking at outside. Other organizations like Total, other oil companies. MTN was giving scholarships, and I don't know if they are still giving. MTN was also giving like 200,000 naira every session.
Wow.
I remember there was a friend who got MTN scholarship. He got Total scholarship. He got, I think, federal government scholarship. So the guy was balling. He was collecting like close to 500K or so every session.
Wow, that's huge.
That's a university then, because he got from MTN and all of this. So those scholarships are there, just that they are not as much as the ones abroad.
Okay, so some people want to apply for scholarships, but they don't know how. They don't even know where to start from. What can you say about that? How can people apply for scholarships that they qualify for? Because some people are even qualified, but they don't know the know-how, where to even start from. How do you advise those people? And if there are certain websites that you can suggest, probably the one that worked for you, you can help us,
Yeah.
with the website, so that
two websites that worked well. There are so many websites, but two websites that worked for me incredibly well. One was scholarshipspositions.com. That was one that worked for me. Yes, that was one. And then the second one that worked for me, in fact, my PhD scholarship, I got it on that website, is jobs.ac.uk. Casey, you might know that because you're in the UK. Yes. So it's a UK website. Literally.
Okay. Sorry, the one you finished, you did this your doctorate.
Yes, I saw it on that website. Yes. So it was a UK website.
Under UK, and then it's an Australian scholarship.
Oh yes, so because it doesn't matter. So what happens is you have scholarships. You although it's a UK run website platform, but it's just like how do I describe it now? It's like a church, right? You go to church, there are people from different states and different tribes and all of that. They still advertise scholarships from all over the world. It's not just UK. So they advertise postdoc, they advertise UK jobs, they advertise scholarships, they advertise postdocs, anything you can think of. And it's so good because go on.
Sorry for cutting you. Are there certain periods that scholarships are being given?
Yes, it depends again on the type of scholarship. So for instance, I remember my Commonwealth scholarship at the time, we resumed in September. So resumption is usually in September that's when in the UK, September, that's when the intake starts. So you find that, early on in the year, so from around, I think February, March, April, those early months, it's already open because they start recruiting early on in the year. So if you're thinking UK, you know that new sessions mostly start around that September period. Okay. So you have to start looking at, start doing your search from January or even December of the previous year, right? Because you have to plan ahead. Remember that you have documents to put together. If you want to go and take transcript from your university now, you might use 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You have not gotten your transcript depending on the process that it's in your university. Or some universities you might get it quicker. Or you might need reference letters, and that's another thing I forgot. You need reference letters from your lecturers. Then you need to tell them early. They need to prepare all of those things. So there are things that you have to start, months, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years. Like I told you, I got my first scholarship in 2011, right? The total scholarship. But from then on, I knew that I wanted to I had the desire to get a master's abroad. But I never got a scholarship until 2016. How many years is that? But in between, I was working towards it, right?
Yeah.
And I could have been fortunate to get the scholarship the following year, or maybe, at the first go, but I didn't. So I was volunteering, I was working, I was doing all the kind of jobs I could do to keep the spirit going. But eventually I got my big break in 2016. So if I didn't start preparing early, you can imagine. So that's so people should look at, if you're looking at places, for instance, in Australia, which is where I am now, they have most universities run 3 semesters. So you have like semester 1 running between February and June, right? You have semester 2 running between July and November. Then some universities do what is called summer semesters. Not all universities do it. Like it's a very short one where you can pick up extra courses to do. They do that between December and February. So the cycle continues like that. So if you are thinking, so for instance, for people who are thinking of doing like a PhD or a research master's, right? If you want to apply for universities in Australia, you know that the intake, if you get admission, it's either you start in February or you start around the July. For instance, my PhD, I started 31st July 2019. That was my start date, So it's either you start at that February start early in the year, or you start towards mid-year. But if, for instance, you are targeting to start in July, you have to start preparing like the July the year before, because you have to start contacting supervisors to get supervisor. You have to put up your proposal. You have to get your references. You have to get your transcript. You have to get your international passports. all of those things. So you need a year at least, or 2 years, depending on where you are. By virtue of what I do, people, and they are still in 400 level, 300 level, and they reach, send DMs and say, "Oh, Aaron, I saw this video, or I heard you talk about this. I have plans of applying for a scam." Like, yes, this is good that you've started this conversation now. These are the things you need to put in place. If you're in university now, just start volunteering, doing a few things, put up gaining that experience, so that by the time you finish, and some of them, when they finish, they say, "Oh, Aaron, I've just started serving now. I got a 2-1, or I got a first class. I've put all this together," and some of them go on to get scholarships. But
it's like you stopped updating those your success story. How many students do you have now that got scholarship through your council?
Honestly, it is because I don't keep track. I don't have like I refuse to have like structured programs for like mentorship. So people reach out and they say, "Oh, yeah, I want you to be my mentor." I refuse to take up the title of mentor. I never want to do it because it's a lot of work. When you say, "Oh, you are my mentee," it means we'll have to have sessions. We are sitting together.
Full-time work. That's why most people do it as consultancy, and they receive consultancy fees for it.
Yes.
If you want my time, you pay. And you've been on your research busy. You can't do the both. I don't know if now
exactly. So I've been doing that. So I all through my PhD, I've been very active in terms of even reviewing essays and doing all that while I was in my PhD. And now that I'm even done, I thought I'll have more time to do it now, but eventually I seem not to have enough time to do it now with work and all that. But the thing is, so many people have lost count. In fact, there are people in my DMs as early as last week, saying, "Aaron, I just got." In fact, there is a student who literally just came to Australia. He's a Ghanaian. He just came to Australia from Ghana to start a PhD here. And I just shared the PhD. I shared the PhD thing from my university. I just shared the thing online and said, "If you meet the requirement, please apply." The guy applied. He sent his CV or documents I helped review because it was my university. And he got the scholarship. The first time I spoke to him was last week. He sent me a DM when he was taking flight. So all of those things before I always used to update it. Good news from scholarship land.
Scholarship land or something.
Give a background of where I started with it. Yeah, scholarship land. I always used to do that. But I just, for some reason,
I wanted to move on. I'll be like, who they get scholarship for this hard time, eh?
I'm telling you.
Not the bombard of that time. Scholarship, good news. You come like us when you get scholarship, you get bad
and people see they get them. I'm telling you, as early as last week, there are DMs have not opened now because my DM is a mess, right? It's like, so people now, when people want to reach me, I say, please just send me an email because I feel like it's faster. My DM, LinkedIn, Instagram, I think my Instagram is even closed. Twitter is even closed because of traffic. So, but the ones that are current have not even replied.
Closed as in you closed it, or the Twitter closed it for you?
No, I did. So I closed Instagram and Twitter, and it's because of there are so many DMs, and the kind of questions people ask you. They are not questions you go back and say hi, hello. They are questions that you have to take your time, read their specific question, then reply to that specific thing.
I think you should consider going into full-time consultancy so that you earn side cash.
Side cash that has to do with time. It's not a good side cash.
But do you have extra time? Do you have extra time in your workplace?
The thing is, now so many things are going on that I honestly don't have enough time to accommodate those things. So
when the time is right, you do it. Yeah. Let's not put pressure on you.
Even when the time is right, at the moment, I'm not considering monetizing that aspect of scholarship things I do. So, I've gone, scholarships changed my life, literally. So I have taken it upon myself since then that I would not monetize anything
Oh,
that I do about the
that's sweet.
scholarship.
That's sweet, actually.
So yeah, I mean that's why I've never gone down that route yet, because it's not like it's a bad thing to do. It's because it takes time. So people charge to do that, but I just feel if I don't have the time, I won't do it. Anytime I have the time, when people send me documents, I have the time, I will do it. But to monetize it, I feel like that's my way of giving back to,
the system that helped you, that paved.
Well done. Well done. God will bless you for that. So the last but not the least question, I don't know if Casey have any question. I want to ask the last advice. Which organizations do you think you can refer people, or do you think give the highest scholarships within Africa or Nigeria as a nation for students, graduates, undergraduates? I'm talking of scholarships, scholarship both in cash and in school fees payments. Yeah.
So if you're an undergrad student, the popular ones I know, Total E&P, Total, the oil company. I think most of those oil companies give scholarships, but sometimes they give. Some of those oil companies, they will say you have to be like in engineering space. It was only Total at the time they were opening it up to everybody. I think Shell even at that time were giving, but you had to be like in the engineering space, or you had to.
Well, how do people get the memo? Because we're just here. Most people don't even hear about it.
Now everybody's on TikTok now. They are looking for where things are shaking. That is why we have career boss.
Nobody's browsing for educational things.
Nobody wants to read. That is the problem we're having. Nobody wants to where they will see value.
But that's the truth. I'll give you an example, right? So you see, when Freda, when you reached out to me about your friend who wanted the scholarship thing, you see the response I sent you. It's a generic response. I have prepared responses like that in different ways.
I know.
So there are people.
I know.
Exactly. That's the only way I can manage that kind of thing. Now, if you look at that, I'm saying, go and read this. I have written about this already. Go and watch this video. Go and listen to this.
And most people are not willing to put in the work to even watch it.
Thank you. Now, after my advice is, after you've done all that, when you have specific questions, come back. We can schedule a call and talk. Now I do that.
95 will not come back.
They will not come back because they not even watch it.
Thank you. Now, do you know when they come back? They come back when they see me post a thing online saying good news from scholarship.
Good news.
Then they will come back and say, Aaron, that scholarship you mentioned, I have not even. I said, no problem. Anytime you've read it or you've listened. Yeah, so that's going back to what Casey said. That's true. People don't actually. Some people, not. Some people, a lot of people will say, please help me get. A lot of people reach out to the DM and reach out to me in DMs and emails, say, please help me apply for a scholarship. Help me get this scholarship. How do I get this scholarship? I'll say everything you need about scholarship. If it's not on my website, if it's not on my, I have videos on my website.
Far back. Yeah.
If it's not on my,
I didn't get to watch it because I'm not the one looking for. So as you sent it, I sent it to her. If she's serious, she would go through it.
Exactly. So everything you need they're all there. But like Casey mentioned, some people don't actually want to look at it. But I mean, it takes work. I told you my story of, all the back and forth, and that was just, that's an abridged version of my story. There are so many things in between. I mean, Freda, Casey, I write online about my stories a lot, right? So you would have read different versions of it at different points in life. But that's the thing. It's hard work. It's a full-time job, some people say. Because I remember I would be with my friends in Lafayette, then we'll be just, they'll be gisting, maybe hanging out, taking drinks, eating fish, and then my laptop bag is there. And then all of a sudden, they will just see me. I'll just reach out for my laptop. They say, Aaron, what are they? I say, I just see one scholarship now. I want to apply. I say, Kai, Aaron, you said. I'm telling you. Yeah, but eventually it paid off, isn't it? Like, I don't know where for Dave no be scholarship, to be honest. I know now. But anyways, So so this information, they are online. They are on this Total. They are all online on this on different websites. If you think Hot Nigerian Jobs, it's a website that we used. I think even the Total Scholarship. I think I saw it on Hot Nigerian Jobs then. That was the website. Hot Nigerian Jobs. Yes, I don't know if it's still running, anyways, but because I don't know the last time I checked it. But that was a website that. So most of the jobs that we were seeing or these college opportunities, they are there. So look out for oil companies like Total, like Shell, the advertising scholarship. MTN used to give scholarship then. I don't know if they still do. NMPC, obviously, I think they were giving to scholarship. I think they also have scholarships for people in those riverine oil areas. There are scholarships for those people as well. And then, of course, the federal government scholarship I mentioned, it's there. I'm sure it's still running. It's been a rolling thing. If you're thinking of scholarship abroad, the very popular scholarships, there are so many, but the popular ones that will fund everything for you, including flights and all of that. Commonwealth Scholarship, which was what I benefited from for my master's. MasterCard Scholarship, it's one. Chevening Scholarship is another one. Erasmus Mundus, Australia Awards, Research Training Program Scholarships here in Australia. Which other one? Destination Australia is there. There are what's this scholarship in Korea or Japan? There are the WHO scholarship. There's a World Bank scholarship as well.
Yes.
There are so many. There are just too many. There's Fulbright scholarship. They are everywhere. And there are university admitted scholarship that will still pay you, that will still fund everything. I mean, there are scholarship. When I finished my master's, then there was scholarship I applied in Cambridge and Oxford. Then they were fully funded scholarship, but I didn't get through anyways. But they were fully funded scholarship. So they're all there. And those websites, the scholarships positions that I mentioned, jobs.ac.uk. I'm also a co-founder to one of the scholarships, Ask P Study in Australia website. If you go to my profile across, yes, Ask P, it's studyinaustralia.com. If you go to my profile, just my 3 names, so people might be watching.
So your profile on Facebook or X?
Everywhere.
Okay, what's your name?
My 3 names, Aaron Akpo Philip.
Aaron Akpo Philip. So anywhere they search for Aaron Philip Akpo on X,
yes, Twitter,
Instagram, your name, your profile will come up.
Or the thing, just Google Aaron.
Links. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Or just Google my name, Aaron Akpo Philip. It will give you options. My website usually will come up, and that's the easiest place to go to. Yeah. So if you go to my website, for people might be watching, all my handle icons will be there. LinkedIn, X, Instagram, what's the other one? Facebook, right?
Facebook.
Or so easy. The easy one to go to, if you go to my X Twitter, my X profile or my Instagram, you will see on my bio co-founder, and then you will see another handle. Go to that handle. That handle, if you go to that handle, you'll see a website, takes you to a website. You can access a website through that handle. And there we put it's a website, me and one of my other friends. I mean, he started it, and then he brought me on board to also work with him on that. So we kind of run that platform, and there are too many scholarships that we post on that. I mean, if you're wanting to look for scholarships in Australia,
I see you on Twitter, X. I see you on X.
Exactly. We have a private group for that platform. The private group on Facebook currently has over 80,000 people.
Wow.
And these are sharing information about scholarships and all that. And so that's one thing that you can even go through, aside the videos on my own personal website, right? Then there are the platform that I just mentioned, and then all the other ones I give, scholarships position, all of that. But the resources are just too many. There's nothing you want about scholarships that I can think of that I've not written about. Is it writing CVs, statement of purpose, recommended, how to write supervisors, research proposals. I can't think of anything I've not either written about or done a space about or done a video about as long as he has to do scholarship. In fact, for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship I got on my website, there are 3 or 4 videos specifically talking about just the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship that I did with different people. If somebody wants to say, "Oh, I've listened to Aaron on this amazing podcast," and then he's mentioned that he studied on a Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, just go to my website. There are 3 or 4 videos there. Just listen to this video. It tells you everything you need to know about the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, how to get it, what to have in place, how to respond to the question. All of that is there. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this, Dr. Philip.
This was a very, very enlightening session. As a
power pack session, man.
Power pack. This is what they call what God cannot do. MSC PHD. Well, we are hopeful that from this podcast, we'll start having testimonies. I mean, problems, and what we want to do here in Career Boss is to create solutions. So if you graduated, you're looking for a job. If Nigeria jobs are not working, you want foreign jobs. We have content. If you say you're not done with school, how will we get the job when we've not even finished university? Oh yeah, see scholarship. Yeah. This is where we are trying to see how we can fill those void. And of course, we even come up with our project, the Pocket Fund project, to also still encourage to them to perspire, to ginger, to see how they can push themselves. We can only do as much as push, but you need to also, as an individual, you also need to take that. Most of us, everyone has said just small of a story. If Fred says her own story, if I now say my own, they will break we will break this. We won't
live here today.
Like Dr. Aaron said, hunger is the drive.
Yeah.
See, hunger, if you not tasted lack and abundance,
you will be hungry.
You will not position yourself properly in life. And this is not a scenario or a situation where you even need to go and envy your neighbor. Because if I want to even be inspired by Dr. Aaron's story, I'm just looking at a guy that lost his mom and lost his dad. I'm supposed to be like, how is this boy now? But instead of me to go that route, he's now a big man, So I want to see how people can convert negative energy, what they say, they give you lemon, you turn lemon to lemonade. My brother, you turn out to fruit juice, fruit zobo self.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I need to clap for you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much. We appreciate every bit of information you deposited here, and we hope to see you another time, because that your public health part of your story, you just touched it, then you came back to scholarship. It's a very exciting career over here too in the UK. People are really going into public health, so hopefully when we try to get you to come online again for us, I am positive you will not turn us down. You're part of the family.
I'm part of the family, so I'm definitely sure.
The next scholarship you will get is for professorship.
You don't get that. They let them do that one now. That's why I said no, it's not more really for Dr. Aaron.
School don't finish right here.
Once we play PlayStation,
I know. You can't study for any other thing after. This is the highest qualification. I mean, you can study. You can study to do courses and all of that, but I mean, nothing after PhD. Professorship is more of like it's an appointment. You just keep doing research, and then you get appointed as a professor.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
So much.
All right, guys. From all of us here at Career Boss Podcast, we say bye.
Bye.
Career Boss.